Patel, of course, former cabinet minister, international development secretary, and not a fan of the European Union. I think
that's fair to say. The ifs, buts and maybe sound like the political declaration, Adam.
Right. OK. So are there any circumstances in which you could back this deal being put forward by
Well, I've been very clear already. As soon as the withdrawal agreement came out, I went through the 585 pages, that enormous book that I'm sure you've read as well, Adam. And it was pretty clear in terms of, the fact that we are not leaving the European Union. The backstop is the spine of that withdrawal agreement. And it ties us in to the European Court of Justice. It ties us into a customs framework. We become a rule taker. And on that basis, I'm afraid we are simply not leaving the European Union in the way in which that is currently being advanced or articulated by this government, and I wouldn't support that.
Well, we would be leaving the European Union. We'd no longer be a member of the Council, and we'd be on our way to not making annual contributions. So, I mean, Norway, for example, is not a member of the European Union.
But Adam, that is not the Brexit that this government actually promised.
The European Union,
that is not the Brexit this government promised. And quite frankly, we are still tied to EU laws and regulations. We'll be a rule taker. We are subject to the regime, the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice. The backstop ties us into customs arrangements. And effectively, we will now be situated where our political future freedoms and our economic freedoms and, quite frankly, our democratic rights will now be determined by the European Union.
But isn't the problem that nobody really defined what leave meant? And the Leave campaign had one view, the government had another. It was never agreed. Even after the vote, it wasn't agreed.
I think that's an irrelevance now, because when this government came together...
Because you've got one version of what leave means.
No, because when the government came together 2 years ago, after the referendum, we were told that Brexit means Brexit. We were told that we would, yes, be leaving on the many terms that you and your viewers have been hearing about day in, day out. But we're also told that no deal is better than a bad deal. This deal is going to keep us tied into the European Union. Your viewers are currently hearing that that's it, we're leaving. We don't have to engage with Europe again. That's simply not true. You're going to be going to Brussels probably on a weekly basis if this were to get through.
To look at
the next stages on the withdrawal agreement, the political declaration, negotiations, the Court of Justice, and obviously the enforcement of the backstop.
But you see, the risk for someone like you who thinks it's important to leave the European Union is actually, if you don't accept this deal, which starts the process of us leaving, we might never leave. I mean, that's what Mrs May says. That's what Dominic Raab appears to be saying these days.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is what we are being presented with is an awful deal. It is not leaving the European Union.
So would you rather remain in the European Union?
Well, what I would say is that the current terms of our membership are slightly more palatable. I'm not advocating those at all. But by no way are we leaving in the way in which we should.
But if it came down to a choice, I mean, would you at least vote for a referendum?
Well, I'd say no at this stage, but the reality is, Adam, anything is possible right now. We don't know what's going to happen, not just with this deal, whether or not the Prime Minister says no to a second referendum. She also said that no deal is better than a bad deal, and we've been presented with a terrible deal.
What about if this deal falls down, the European Union stick by what they're saying, and we therefore leave without any arrangements in place on the 30th of March.
Well, then I think the government should level with the public and explain why they haven't prepared, why they have not done work over 2 years over no deal.
It would be pretty disastrous,
well,
wouldn't it?
I've always said I've not been a champion, I've not been a cheerleader for no deal. We know that it would be difficult, that's very clear, but it's a job and responsibility of any government to actually do the preparedness and to do the work. And of course, they've had time to do that.
All right, give us a prediction. What's going to happen?
Well, I can't see how this current arrangement, the withdrawal arrangement, is going to go through on the meaningful vote. So what I would like to see is actually further dialogue. I don't think it's right to say that there's now, no other discussions. That's simply not true. Of course, we're going to be discussing this further with the European Union. We have to bin the backstop. We need conditionality over that 39 billion, absolutely. And we actually need clarity. That political declaration is dreadful. It is full of constructive ambiguity. It tells us nothing. It's all coulds, shoulds. This is not defining our future relationship at all and telling the country that we're leaving the EU.
Priti Patel, thank you very much indeed. Well, the